Kitchen table reloading, 45 ACP with a single stage press. William Hovey Smith, 2020. I'm the author of a number of outdoor books and also a business book, Create Your Own Job Security. Now, this book tells you how to identify and actually start your own companies at any stage of your life that you might be at the moment. I've just published a new novel, my first one, Father of the Grooms, and this is available as a first draft edition on Amazon.com right now. I also have 2 new gun-related ebooks. Hunting with Muzzleloading Revolvers, which was published last week, and then another one coming out this week, Muzzleloading Guns for Self-Defense. So you can go on Amazon and find all of these titles. This is Hovey Smith, the Backyard Sportsman, and we are going to be practicing some kitchen table reloading for the 45 ACP, in particular to be fired out of this Remington stainless 1911. What I have is a series of loading implements that I've used literally over the decades, depending on where I was. Until very recently, comparatively, in my life, I was mobile. I lived in places like Alaska, Arizona, Montana, Maine, here, California, etc., etc. And as I moved around, I did not have the luxury of having a permanent reloading station. In short, I couldn't dedicate a room in the back of a garage for it. So consequently, I had to use portable equipment. And we started off in the late 1960s with this, the Lyman Tong Tube. I was in the military at the time, and I could reload actually in the BOQ, the Bachelor Officers' Quarters, with my little Lyman Tong Tube and load what specialized loads I wanted to shoot. Now, I had all the 45 ACP brass that could be desired from the military, but I didn't have things like 38 Special and 357 and 44 Magnum, etc., etc., and I owned the guns, and so I reloaded with the Tong Tube. The Tong Tube is slow. As you get older, it becomes more and more difficult to operate. Most of us, by the time you get in your 70s, like I am now, yeah, I've got a little arthritis in the hands, and the crunching of the Tong Tube really aggravates it. So we had to do with a better instrument. Now over here, this is a beast of a press I bought while I was in Alaska. It was purchased from an old GI who reloaded professionally, so to speak. And he ran, God only knows how many tens of thousands of rounds through it. And I've run many hundreds of rounds through it. And as an old single stage press, it does just fine. Now, I also have this blue press you see behind me, which is a Dillon 500. Now, that was used when I was doing more actual NRA match shooting, primarily in Arizona by that time. But still, I was living in a trailer, and again, did not have space to have a dedicated reloading room and a heavy bench and so on. So I mounted it on what you see it on right now with a lubricator sizer here on the other end. Now that I'm back home, I found that I didn't really have a set of 45 ACP dies for it. So when I got it down from the attic, no, I didn't have those anymore. So I went ahead and got a new set of dies. In the meantime, we're going to start out with our single stage press. Now, I've already done some preparation on the brass. Now, if you reload, Yeah, you need to get your reloading block like this. This one's out of walnut. They now make them more commonly out of plastic. And some holes, some powder, primers, which you'll see a little bit more later, and bullets. Now these are Hornady XTPs. They're available in a variety of different bullet weights at different prices. The 185 grain bullets are pretty cheap. The powder, unique. A very commonly available, very long-lasting powder. I've loaded unique powders that were 20 and 30 years old and still work just fine. But these are getting expensive too. And this one is $32 for the container there. The dies. Well, the dies I needed to get to convert the Dillon were $100. The Hornady dies here were, I believe, about $50. The stuff is getting more and more expensive, it seems. Inordinately so, I think. But once you get it, you got it. If you take care of it, it'll last for decades. If you throw it in a bucket full of water, of course they'll rust up and be worthless in 2 or 3 years. But if you oil them every time and put them away well and keep them in the little plastic boxes and keep them dry, then they'll last for generations. Your great-grandson could use the same stuff, for example. So we're going to get started. I've already chamfered these cases. That is, taken a tube and reamed them out both on the inside and the outside so the bullets will seat. In setting up the press, we have to change out the dies, and obviously I need to remove this 45 long Colt die and put a 45 ACP in. Even though they're both nominally 45 calibers, they are quite different cartridges insofar as their dimensions go. Plus, you have the issue that the long Colt is a straight cased rimmed cartridge, whereas the 45 ACP is a rimless cartridge. So consequently you need a separate shell holder for it. And so we've taken the die out, and now we do the same with the shell holder here. Now I was fortunate that the guy I bought this from had loaded for a lot of cartridges for his fellow GIs. So he had a wide variety of shell holders. Now somewhere in the world, I'm sure there was once a chart that told you which was which. But out of all of these, yeah, there's very likely one in here that works. But it's just trial and error until you find it. More about that part in a little bit. Okay, so we have a case. See if we find something likely. Okay, how about that one right there? That looks fine. It's a number 2. It seats it very well. All right, I believe we have it. First time out. Install it. So now, with our brand new dies. We obviously need one with the extractor post on it. We've certainly worked the case efficiently. That's far enough, I think. But we're not extracting the primer yet. You know, we got it. I didn't hear it fall. We have our die set now, and so what we needed actually was a 1/2-inch wrench to cinch this down, and then this is tightened up with English Allen screws, and the same here, and we've got our shell holder in. Now we need to put in our large pistol priming device, which is here. And we have a wing nut down here which can be removed easily. Yay. That inserted. Okay. Then this holds your large pistol primer. Insert a primer here. We have a case. Goes fully back up in the die. This is seated. Then you pull up. Crunch. That seats your primer. And you now have a primed case. So we put in our other little case. Primer. Seat. And do exactly the same for 48 more times. In the reloading process, you've got to make sure that what you have done, you've done to each individual case. And for that reason, I've left this row blank in the loading block. So now, when I lubricate, as I just did with this rag that had a little boar butter on it, and you just put a light coat of lubricant, you don't really need to slather it on there. I'm separating the primed from the unprimed and unsized cases, so I can keep them apart and know when I move a case from here to here, that I've actually done the operation and all of it. This is particularly critical when you get around to actually putting powder charges in your things. Now, to show you how this priming arm works a little better, it pulls out like this, and you put your primer in there, push it back in firmly, and then when you lower the base like this, it obviously seats the primer into the case itself. We've now changed dies again, and we put a case expander die in the press. What this does, it bells the mouth of the case a little bit so that the bullet can start to seat into the case. So now that will hold the bullet while it goes through the next step. So now it'll hold the bullet, and when it gets in the next die, the bullet will be trued up and then seated down to about this depth here. But before we do that, we of course have to put some powder in the case. So now we're ready to charge the cases with powder. Now I'm going to be using a Hornady 185 grain XTP bullet here, and unique powder. Unique is one of the oldest powders, and this one, yeah, it's old, reliable, it's stable. I've loaded Unique that was 20 years old without any problems at all. And I'm unusual in that I actually weigh out each powder charge. Most reloaders actually use a dropping mechanism of some sort, either on the press or as a separate standalone unit. But I've always weighed mine. Now, I don't make a lot of bullets at the time. I'm a hunter rather than a target shooter, so a box of 50 bullets will last me a while. Yeah, when I'm breaking in a pistol, as I'm doing this one, yeah, I'll shoot these up pretty quick. But usually, well, who knows? I have ammunition that I've shot that was 20 and 30 years old. So once it's loaded, yeah, it's pretty well there for a while. Because when you're hunting, you don't use that much ammunition. Now, I also have the most recent loading manual, but for 185 grains of bullets, the powder charges that I'm going to be working at will get a velocity of 850 feet per second. And this is 6.2 grains with a maximum charge of 6.6 grains. So if I load 6.2, that'll be a reasonable load. Six point one, 6.2. We've got our little piece of cut typing paper here to form a V-shaped trough. And we're going to add a little powder. Okay, just a little more. All right, that's it. Then, take our powder funnel, put it in the case. Take our bullet, seat it in the case like this. And we can put it in the loading block. So we're just going to load up the cases like this until we get all the powder I've measured. I'm about halfway through the powder measuring process, as you can see. Now, some things I need to comment on. About having this pile of loose powder here. That's absolutely no danger to anybody or anything. Not in this house. There's no one that smokes. There's no source of flame or ignition. You could absorb a minor amount of moisture, but it's only there for a few minutes at the time before it gets put in its case and sealed up. So that's a negligible argument. The critical thing is to make sure that your pan over there is actually free floating, that it's not resting on the cloth, on this towel, so you are getting true weights. Now, when you do this process, doing it the way I do, you actually look at your case several times as you pick it up and handle it. So if there's anything strange about this case or your charge, then you can very easily spot it. So you go through it mechanically, by yourself, without distractions, and yeah, you can get the job done. We're now installing a bullet seating die, which looks a bit different. And when you run the work down, this falls, and that actually catches the bullet and does initial alignment on it. So now you have the bullet and you have it crimped. Now before you get too long with this, you want to make sure that the bullets will actually fit in the magazine. This is not too significant in revolvers. As long as the bullet does not physically stick out beyond the end of the cylinder, you're fine, your work will function. And so this is no problem when you're at all, usually, when you're shooting a light for the caliber bullet like I am here. Shooting a 185 grain instead of a 230 grain. So, you check it in your magazine, and you also make sure it feeds through the magazine. Now I've also chambered around in the gun just to make sure it chambers okay, and it did. Stepped outside and did that just for safety's sake. So far as I know, this round should run very well, and so we can go ahead and finish it up. But you do want to make some preliminary checks because you don't want to get out the range where you may have driven a 50 or 60 miles to get to it and find out that your hand loads won't run through your gun. In running the press down, we're going ahead and seating the bullet all the way to the start of the cone, and that'll give it a little extra clearance in the magazine. And you're hearing a characteristic sort of double bump sound there. This ensures that your load is absolutely going to generate the same pressure. From shot to shot, which is vital to accuracy, of course. Thus far this evening, we've taken our single stage press over there and in an hour loaded 50 rounds of 45 ACP. We now have on this side the Dillon 500. This is a rotary stage press, and we're going to load another 50 rounds using exactly the same components in that press. Now I do not have all the accessories on it. For example, I don't have the automatic primer feed, and I do not have the automatic powder feed. So this is a basic unit of just the bare press. If you order just the press and just the dies for one cartridge, that's what you get. And so in the next video, we're going to examine how you actually reload with this stripped down model press and see if it offers any real advantages over the single stage press. I'm going to be selling the Dillon 500 press with a bunch of accessories with it for $300, including shipping in North America. When you add the automatic primer and powder delivery systems, you have a very excellent high-speed machine for the volume production of reloads. Now, if you reload, hundreds of cases a week, then yeah, something like this is what you need to have, and this is a good price. For more information on my books, blogs, and more than 800 YouTube videos, you can go to my website, www.hoviesmith.com. Now, my action-adventure novel, Father of the Grooms, is now available on Amazon.com and other outlets as an e-book. Now, my business book, Create Your Own Job Security, Plan to Start Your Own Business at Midlife, or any other time, really, is universally available as either a softcover or an e-book. And this is particularly valuable in today's economic climate. Now, if you wish to contact me about the press or anything else, you can write me at hoviesmith@bellsouth.net. Good hunting and good eating from the outdoors. Goodbye, and God bless.